barbers, they're kind of like therapists, right? People come and sit down in
Yeah,
that chair, spill a lot about
man.
their life or things that they're going
You can
through.
like you can feel and see like sometimes like just the weight they let off when they get in the chair. It's real, and being men, there's not a lot of spaces for some of that sometimes, or maybe it's not as normal in a certain person's community where they want to be vulnerable with their male friends or whatever, and it's a male dominated space already. Being that for somebody is big.
Hey everyone, welcome back to Life Unedited, where we have real conversations with real people. Today I'm talking to my guy Osai. Man, we go back pretty far, high school days.
Yeah.
And it's kind of funny because like we've always, for some reason, been in like the same space or the
Mm.
same areas in life. Like, a year or two might go by, but then somehow we then see each other again and like we're in the same space again. It's so weird.
Yeah.
But thank you for coming on. I appreciate it. I'm excited to honestly use this as an opportunity to get to know you more personally as well, just outside of this even being, you being on the podcast. And so, yeah, like I said, thank you for coming on, bro. Appreciate you.
Man, thank you for having me. Just like you said, it's actually crazy when you think, we left high school almost a decade ago, and somehow, some way, we are in the same spaces or, connected through mutuals or something. So, it's kind of cool that we've
Right.
been entwined in this way.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Totally agree. Yeah, it's so weird. But yeah, let's jump into it. And so as you know, like every story has a beginning, right? And here on Life Unedited, I like to start with something I call the preface,
Mm.
which is just a handful of quick questions, like rapid fire questions, just to kind of give us a glimpse of your first page.
Yeah.
Just say the first thing that comes to mind, and yeah, you ready?
Yeah. Let's do
All
it.
right,
Let's do
cool. First one, coffee or tea?
Tea.
Tea, okay. Morning or night person?
Morning person. Yeah.
Morning. What's the first concert you've ever been to?
Neftafaro.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
Yeah. A
All
local
right.
one. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. That's cool. What would you say your favorite comfort food is?
Mom's cooking, probably. Honestly, just Nigerian food, but from home.
Can't beat that for sure.
Yeah.
Dog or cat person?
Oh, my heart says cat, but nowadays
Hmm.
I'm a bit of a dog person. Yeah.
Okay. Interesting. Are you a pineapple on pizza type of guy or no?
I'm pineapple on half of the pizza, sure. Yeah, I'm a little bit weird in that way. I like to have the taste, but I don't like the whole pizza being covered in pineapple.
That's fair. Yeah, that's fair. What's the this is a good one. What's the last song you added to your playlist?
Un beso by Romeo Santos.
Okay. Hey.
Yeah, yeah.
Cool, cool. I like it.
Hmm.
Uh very cultured.
Yeah, I'm all over the place,
All
man.
right, I'm right there with you. Cool. That's it. Thanks for doing that. And this is because what I'm trying to do here is this is a play on like a book, right? And
Yeah.
so now that we kind of got a peek at your opening chapter, I just want to turn the
Hmm.
page and get into your story.
For
And
sure.
so the first question I like to kind of ask everybody is just tell me who you are beyond your job title. Like who is Osai?
I am, man, I think I am a bag of tricks in a way. I've always been more than one thing at one time. And, with outside of my job title, I think I've always just had things that have, been interesting to me, been things I'm passionate about, or just things that, I spend my time, whether it's Googling, YouTubing, whatever. I've just always been someone that's curious. I think that's like the best way to, like, if I had to do one word, it would just be curious. I like to learn. I like to, be immersed in things. And, you know, um, I think I'm just open to them. I like at the same time, open-minded to different walks of life, different foods, different cultures. And that's what makes me me, you know what I mean? So yeah.
Yeah, no, that's dope. That's really cool. I'm kind of the same way, just always constantly learning, right? It's just super important. But cool. How did you get started in? I guess for the people who don't know what you do, how did you get started in what you're doing now?
So, even just like I said, I'm a barber and have been a barber for the last, let's say, 7, 8 years. I've been cutting longer than that, but I didn't even come out and say I was a barber until probably like middle of college, just because um, as started to begin that journey of being an undergrad student and starting to we're all in that transitional period during that time, trying to figure out who we are, who we're going to be, what we're going to do, and
100%.
a lot of times we were wondering what our job title is going to be. What I mean, like our occupation, but during that time, being alone in my room at school, far from home, I was able to really kind of dig deep and like see, okay, hey, like I'm more than just this. And I've always was cutting hair. I've always been those type of things, whether, outside of like what I was studying, I had interest in hair. And, I began cutting hair and started calling myself a barber, even though I was still a student and still an athlete. I was calling myself a barber. So that's when I would say I started barbering. And even now, like my transition to not even come out of barbering, but to add on a new thing to my plate in tech. Yeah, I'm always just you know trying to do more and learn more. So um, it's been a while. It's been almost a decade of real professional work. Yeah.
That's cool. That's so cool. It's crazy how fast time flies. Um, if if you
Don't
were
remind
starting
me.
right, man, we getting old.
Yeah.
But if you were starting today with getting into the barber world, um, how would you approach it differently, or would you approach it differently to begin with?
I think the approach I had physically to barbering, I would probably keep somewhat a similar approach to it in terms of the way I attacked it. But mindset, I was a little bit fearful in the beginning because I was cutting, like I said, I was cutting before I really started to tell people and tell myself I was a barber. And it was out of fear. I just didn't want to be judged. I didn't want to, not judged like in a bad way, but I didn't want to put myself, up there for scrutiny yet. I wasn't ready. And
Right.
I think mentally at the time, or just in my younger years, I spent a lot of time and I didn't want to be seen bad. People have that
Mm-hmm.
fear of failure. And I didn't really have a fear of failure, but I just had a fear of being seen not good at things. You know what I mean? And so I think I would go into it with a lot less fear and just like being like unapologetic about my own passion, and wanting to pursue it because there was people around me, guys we grew up with, Zay, Denzel, who were cutting, and they were more pronounced in high school, about what they were doing, and I didn't say it, you know what I mean? I just kind of kept it under wraps, and
Yeah,
then
yeah.
throughout the years, I kind of like as I got better, then I was like, hey, like I also do it, and so then it was perceived as like I just dropped in it and was just like that dude. But
Yeah.
I put a lot of hours in, and in the quiet, and a lot of people didn't know. And
Mm-hmm.
I think that I would have been I would have had more relatable things documented if I would have showed the very beginning of my having my doubts and my you know what I mean. That part of the journey is important to document, and I think I don't have it documented anywhere because I was fearful in the moment. So I think I would have definitely tried to relinquish that fear and just attack it head on.
Yeah, no, that's very well said. I mean, I didn't even know you were a bar. I didn't know you cut hair.
Yeah, I'm talking about we
I
were in
had no
school
idea.
together, and I was cutting hair for people for homecoming, prom. I cut my own hair for ball, and
I
then
had
no
no
one knew.
idea.
So I mean,
That's
yeah, I
crazy.
would have just went at it with just a little less fear, I think, or just even if I had was fearful, just did it anyway. You know what I mean? I think that's a big thing that in our age now, it's easier to do. But when you're young and you're in high school and you're around, like your social circle is so expanded and it's the boundaries aren't as firm. You have those things that kind of hold you back. But I wouldn't have had them if I would have started today. Yeah.
Right, right. I kind of want to touch on a piece that you mentioned about just like being fearful, but not having, not I guess embracing the identity of being a barber, right? People always talk about like when you get into something new, and this is something that's like your passion, and you want to make money from it, whatever it may be. You should, the first thing you should always do is act like you are already a barber, right?
Yeah. Uh-huh.
Um, so how do you feel about that? Do you think that's true that you should embrace that identity in the very beginning and act like you are already a barber or
Absolutely. Absolutely. I think. I think one of those things that, and now we have labels for so many things, but like imposter syndrome, like, you want to get into something and, you don't feel like you really are that until maybe you've got some recognition or something along those lines. And a lot of that is tied to like external validation. And I think if we can kind of like let that go and you start to embrace that. And honestly, I think the biggest thing is recognizing like your own steps and your own efforts towards something and respecting those. Like, if I'm a practitioner of something and I've been doing it daily, like no one can refute that. You know what I mean? Like you are self-taught, software engineer, and it's like no one can like yeah, like you have the title and you have things now that are established, but in the beginning you were grinding your own hours every day. No one could have said, "Oh, man, you're not really out here practicing software." Yes, he is. You know what I mean? It's like you're putting the hours in regardless of the title, regardless of you know what I mean, what it looks like on the outside. You are putting your own efforts, and I think our just respecting like the efforts could that go into things of yourself, I think is huge. And yeah, definitely like just immersing yourself and being like, hey, this is who I am. Like same thing with all the facets of who we are all individually, like the music, the culture is like the food. It's like that's I think the boxes that we're used to putting ourselves in, they really aren't real like that, and I think, letting them go mentally is one of the biggest challenges. But once you start to do that, you can see, people who are start to like really be themselves, and you can see like the identity, like, truly be at the forefront of who they are. So that's like the biggest thing for me. Like you just gotta do things that, make you happy, do things that are aligned with your personality, and hey, like it or not, I mean, it's who you are. Like there's no rules.
Right, right. Yeah, just letting your guard down, right? And just being you unapologetically, like you mentioned earlier. Like just be yourself, man. Because at the end of the day, like that's all people want to see in anyways. They want to see, just like that rawness, that just just be personable. It
That's what we
goes a long
resonate
way.
with anyway. Yeah, we're gonna
Right,
resonate
right,
with
right.
more anyway. So like whatever people might be looking for outside, you be yourself. I'm sure you'll probably find it. You know what I mean? Just because
100%.
that's how you're gonna align yourself with where you're supposed to be at anyway. So yeah,
Right.
yeah.
Totally agree. Would you have any advice for someone who's trying to break into the same path as becoming a barber? Do you have any advice for someone who's starting?
Yeah, I mean, I tell people now who are, they say I want to be a barber, or people who are not sure but they like the craft maybe. I think for me is it was a lot easier for me to like the path because I grew up in barbershops. I was getting my haircuts. I was like going to barber schools, getting cheap haircuts. Like I've always been around hair cutting, and then us being like in the African American community, barbershops are big in the community anyway. So it's like you
Right.
kind of just like grow up accustomed to being in a shop and like But I think about the craft itself, yeah, like at the end of the day, it's one of the oldest professions out there. It
Mhm.
may not be one of those things that people look at as like, oh, it's super sought after, it's super like, a coveted position to be in. But in this day and age of ownership and entrepreneurship, it's one of the most
Kind
lucrative
of
things you
is
can
now.
do. You know what I mean? Like you can
Right.
dictate and, control everything from top to bottom. But I will say, like, when you do consider those benefits, you also have to consider the fact that you are every facet of the company, right? You are the brand, you are the talent, the treasurer, the manager, the secretary. So what you demand of yourself has to elevate, I think, and your fondness of the process has to really increase because again, like in my situation and then a lot of the guys that I was cutting with situation, we were apprentices, right? So we went straight to a shop. We didn't go to a barber school and all those things. So there's no real practice field. It's game day, like it's game day every day. So you have to really put your your commitment to getting better and improving your customer service and your experience. Exactly, like you have that has to be your focus. So not just the money, because I think that's what people get into it and they think, oh man, I'm gonna make some money. I'm my own boss. I got my own schedule. Sure, those are definitely benefits of this profession, but there is such a level of professionalism that you have to be able to do and be who you want to be in the profession. I think that sometimes gets overlooked, but yeah, that's my main thing with advice because with practice and time, skill comes, but definitely it's like you got to be professional. And again, like in a in a profession like this that gets a little bit overlooked, you really got to like have your own identity, like solidified, because it can be easy to be like, well, I'm not getting respected, or I'm not like, like you got to respect your own passion enough to commit to it,
Yeah. Yeah, I was just gonna ask a question, kind of related to that. Of like, it seems like you almost need to build yourself up more than your skills. Like, you
Mhm.
should you should become the try to become the best version of yourself before
Yeah,
getting into this career, right?
yeah.
Because it's just gonna take you a lot further. Um, being as personable as you possibly can, things like that, right?
Yeah, especially being personal, just being personable, because of how many times you're going to be in positions where you are, a lot of times you are, in somebody's bubble, right? And they're coming to you and they're sharing, parts of their life, and
It's
they're going to
true.
happen 8, 9 times, like 10 times a day. Like, it's different people, different conversations, different walks of life, and your ability to connect is big. Like, soft skills matter in barbering. Like, so, if you're just like, I'm just going to cut and go home, sure, that may happen in some situations, or some shops or whatever, but when you're thinking about really like building a business and building a brand that people trust you, and they want to invest in you, is it like, it's exactly that, they invest in you, right? A lot of guys can give out a taper or a fade, but they're investing in you and what you bring to the table and the experience they have when they come to you. So it's big on you.
100%.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's very true. In a way, barbers are can almost, they're kind of like therapists, right? People come and sit down in
Yeah.
that chair and
Yeah.
spill a lot about
Man,
their life or things that they're going through.
you can feel and see, like, sometimes, like, just the weight they let off when they get in the chair. They're like, man, I've been waiting for this cut all week, man. Then they leave, they're a little lighter, you know what I mean? Like, it's real. And being men, there's not a lot of spaces for some of that sometimes, or maybe it's not as normal in a certain person's community, where they want to go, explore therapy,
So
or they
real.
want to, be vulnerable with their male friends or whatever, and it's a male dominated space already. So being that for somebody is big. And then on top of the service, like, they feel good, they're sharing, they're letting it, like, loose a little bit, and then they leave with a haircut, and then they're confident now, and then they also have been able to, like, express themselves. Come on, man, like,
It's
that's
nothing better
super
than that.
instrumental to somebody's life, you know what I mean? So it's something that really can benefit, the community. Like, you impact people literally, like,
Hmm.
physically, you know what I mean? So it's something that
Right.
I tell people, like, bro, like, this is a real profession. It's a real, like, something that you can really, build, and people will really appreciate you. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean that's what life is really about, right? Those little moments of like helping others, in whatever way you possibly can. This way, physically, especially, it's huge and it goes a
Yeah.
long way.
No, yeah,
Um,
no doubt. No doubt. Like,
this
for real.
next question, I want to ask it twice, but pertaining to two different things. More so for me personally too, because I'm curious. But the first one, what inspired you to even become a barber? Like, why'd you even do it?
Oh man. Okay. I have a pretty simple, but answer about that. I mean, honestly, like, my dad used to cut my hair when I was growing up.
Okay.
But you know how it goes. Like, some days, your dad doesn't feel like doing that. You know what I mean? Like, you're like, well, I want to go do this. If I need a haircut, it's like, well, I don't feel like it. So yeah, I just, like, one day would just, grab his clippers, and just honestly, I would just try on my own hair. Like, I would, like, line up, like one half of my, front.
You brave.
And honestly, like, it'll be summertime, so I would, like, I would take a bit of, like, a bit of a risk, but like, my sisters and my mom were like, "Oh, it doesn't look bad." And honestly, I'm the baby in the family. They could have been lying, but I mean, I just took that as, like, motivation. Like, I mean, I'm not terrible, you know what I mean? And just kind of, like, did it more. I would YouTube, and yeah, I just kind of, like, was keeping it in my back pocket as a thing to keep myself clean. And then, hey, who cut your hair? And I'll say I did it myself, and then people would just start to kind of ask me. And it really, I'm talking about, really, like, grew one person at a time, and just kind of, just from there, I guess
Interesting.
I really just kind of, like, enjoyed the fact of, like, people coming in a certain way and leaving a different way. And I think that was the thing that really stuck to me, because I've always liked to help. I think it came from, like, a service. Like, I like to be of service, in ways, and it just felt like a way I could do that. You know what I mean? And it was pretty simple for me. Yeah.
That's awesome. That's cool, man. But what's inspired you to get into tech? Why are you now trying to make that shift?
Another thing about me that is connected to this answer is just my pursuit of more, right? One thing that me and you both, I think, can agree on is just like the importance of continued learning, right? And just being able to, pursue more, and just being grateful for the ability to do so in general, right? So I don't take it for granted. And I went to school, and like I've always been able to use my brain. I think there was ways where cutting, like, you still have to think, and yeah, like you have to be a certain type of person, but I feel like I was leaving some things on the table still. And I think, in light of the fact that I've always been more than one thing at a time, and I feel like I have different parts of me that I like to still nourish. Man, I was like, dude, like I really want to do something that requires me to like learn a skill, in a space I've never been part of, right? When I was in school, I was like an English literature major, and I love to write, and like just like the thinking, like just the being creative. But I really wanted to jump into a space that was elevated on that way, and was in some ways like mission critical, depending on like the space you get into in terms of tech itself. Um, and that came from probably just maybe like um, maybe stability, or I'm not even sure what
Yeah,
stemmed,
yeah.
like what really brought it upon me.
Interesting.
But once I like came across it a couple of times and would read up on what it was, and like just the essence of cybersecurity, which is the part of tech like specifically I want to be in, or I'm transitioning into, I should say.
Yeah, yeah,
It
that's
really just
good.
came down to like like who I am, right? And the things I like to do, the traits I believe I have. I felt like, cybersecurity and protecting systems and being an instrumental part of a team was something that I've always wanted to, do. And being able to find a career that way, um, and impact, companies and people just like I am in barbering, just a different way. I was like, you know what, like I could learn, like I can learn how to do this. And it's been a journey so far, just learning something completely new. Like I feel like I'm teaching myself everything. But yeah, like the big thing that inspired me was just the chance to like do something completely unexpected, and to be able to make a living doing it, right? And yeah, I don't know, like I just end up in things. I'm not even gonna lie. I just end up in stuff, and I can commit to a plan. So yeah, I don't know.
Right. Right. No, that's fine. That's good. That's how I feel about this whole podcast thing. Like, I just got bored one day and was like, I want to do something new. I want to challenge myself, right? And the biggest challenge I think that almost anybody can do is putting themselves out there, in front of a bunch of people, or just in front of on social media in general, right? Because it doesn't even have to be in front of a bunch of people, but just taking that risk, taking that next step, that jump, and just going for it. So I totally understand what you mean. Uh,
Yeah, it's been
Go ahead.
dope too seeing the podcast.
Right.
Like, I'm not gonna lie, it's pretty cool.
I appreciate it, bro. I really do. Just trying something new, man. But I've learned
Yeah.
to actually really enjoy it in the process. Like, this has become one of probably my favorite things that I'm doing in life right now. Even it's like neck and neck with this and basketball, man. And I love playing. I love just hooping.
Woo!
So it's
Yeah,
I love it.
yeah, nah.
Um, it's been a blessing. But I'm assuming there's been a point in your career professionally, like a low point. What's one thing I guess helped you push through that and continue? Because motivation disappears like that, right? And so you have to stay disciplined to your craft. What is one thing that's
Mm.
kind of just helped push you through in those moments when you're like, man, I don't even know if I want to do this anymore?
I've had a couple. Okay, so I've had two moments, like specifically, where it was really like a low moment. Right, at the beginning, when I took a step and left my garage, and I started cutting in a shop, and I was not busy. I just wasn't there yet. I kind of misgauged my weekends with the friends in the garage, and didn't really compare that properly to a whole week in the shop, and those gaps that I would need to fill with people. And I was struggling financially. You know what I mean? I was just down. Like I didn't have a lot coming in as fast as I would like it, and bills don't stop. So
Right.
the things were pretty tough. And um, I think just like the owner I had, my girl, kind of just like being a support, like a big support system. Because I didn't really, again, I didn't share it a lot with people or my family or whatever. Because I already was, choosing a career path that wasn't the most, um, supported, I guess, at home. So yeah, like I don't know. I think, yeah, it really came down to not even being motivated, like you said. Like it really just came down to like how bad I really wanted to become this. Like I wanted to grow in this, and I had to get creative in terms of one, what I was willing to do to be successful, and then two, like how bad I was gonna commit to the plan. Like, I can think up a bunch of stuff, you're driving and you're in your shower and you have a bunch of ideas flowing. And then it's like when it comes now to the next day, you gotta execute. That's usually where the motivation starts to fizzle out. Like, well, today I'm not in the mood. And it's like, but nah, like you actually have to commit. Like it's not even about, how good you feel, and if you gotta mope through it, you gotta mope through it. But yeah, it really came down to just like dragging myself through the steps I know I needed to do. I know I needed to network. I know I needed to focus on getting better at my craft. I know I needed to be more professional, be on time. Like the things that sometimes I wasn't in the mood for, I just had to just make them normal.
Yeah, and be realistic about it too, right? I think that's a huge thing. But I kind of want to jump now, kind of transition a little bit, get into a little bit more of your personal life outside of your career, because we've seen how your career has unfolded now and the lessons you've taken from it. But as you know, every book has
Yeah.
chapters that aren't about work. So let's flip the page and talk about parts of your life outside of your career that have shaped you. Do you carry any lessons from your upbringing and how you live your life now? Any teachings from your parents or friends or family, um, while growing up that you kind of that still stick with you today?
Yes. One of them is like a quote that it's not even a quote that I think is somebody like made. I think it's just like a saying, but doing what you have to do until you can do what you want to do. And it's really just about not biting off more than you can chew, and kind of staying like in a way staying down, you know what I mean, for the come up. Because my parents came here from Nigeria, so I'm first generation American, and I saw just the sacrifices they made. And a lot of what drives me and propels me is just the fact that I don't want their excursion here to be in vain, right? And so it's just like being able to again commit to like the right way to do things, because we all have goals of nice lives and all the other type of things, but until you're there, you're not there. Whether you're gonna be there tomorrow or next year, you're not there yet. And I think the big thing is not forgetting right where you came from, not forgetting, the efforts that have to be, put forth, and doing just like kind of just like trusting the process. And like I see, we all can kind of like look at our parents like, you kind of learn how to work and hustle from them because they do what they got to do for you. And, you know, that's what they did for me. Like I've learned without them speaking about it, just like learn like, okay, like they gotta do what they gotta do. Like for us, they've had goals that they've had to swallow and just kind of forget about, or maybe put on the back burner. And I think that's a big thing because life has gotten easier, at least in America, right, to be successful in a number of ways. Not easier in terms of you don't have to work as hard, but there's so many more avenues that may have not been um, thought about back then when we were kids, or back when my parents came in the '80s. And it's just like when I see them and I think about them and the fears they may have had of coming to another country, it's like that. Like that's like the a huge thing where it's like they did what they had to make sure that we had a life that they could, be proud of and go pursue opportunities that they were going to be here for us. So when I think about where I want to go in life, it's like I understand things take time. There's patience involved, there's work ethic involved, there is some late nights and early mornings, and embracing that is something that I've taken from my childhood, while pursuing barbering, football, like, whatever my degree. And now, like, I understand that, each goal and each thing that's positive has a test before you get it. And it makes the journey all that more the better because, you earned it. So that's one thing huge that I've taken from my upbringing.
Yeah, no, that's awesome, man. This is more of a deeper question, kind of. No, it is, and if you need a second to think about it, by all means. But how has love in any form shaped the way you see yourself, or I guess others, or like interact with others?
Easily, man. Well, one, I'll say, God's love and more in, diving deeper into the word and understanding what that is truly, um, is such a reassurance to, me and who I am and you and who you are and just everybody, right? I think sometimes, especially when you're a little younger and you don't have as much experience or wisdom, it's a little bit tough to really understand like the fullness, what I mean, of God and His grace for us. But yeah, truly, like just looking around, seeing the environment, the people around you, and the times I'm talking about like just how many times we escape death day to day, or like, what I mean, the moments where it seemed like I was just lucky and still came out on top, and that like it's such a reassurance to like remind me that hey, like nothing we do is on accident, and as much as we'll never know, exactly what God's will is, um, He's gonna give us a bunch of chances. There's a like the way I look at it. I was telling my brother one day, I was like, man, like we're on a track here, and there's a bunch of exits, right? And any one of them could be the one that you take to really go get there. One like to really be, to fulfill your potential. But God's gonna give you a bunch of them because you might keep missing. You know what I mean? You might drive by it that day, and I'm gonna do my own thing, but another one's gonna come up, and like eventually, I think that we all get opportunities to to really pursue and become who we're supposed to be. Whether that's to use our gifts for people or whatever the case may be. But I think there's just so many opportunities for us to like be who God intended us to be, and just the fact that we get all these opportunities and chances every day to just wake up and try again is such like a crazy thing when you think about it. And then, understanding God's love for me, being able to accept my own like my partner's love for me as well. Like me and my girl or will be together 6 years in January. And early on it was hard to like accept that someone out there really like rocks with me truly, like yourself better than anybody most of the time. But then you get someone who spends time trying to really understand you as well. And um like God's there for you, but that's a spiritual thing. And on like just being practical in the natural world, having somebody to really be a support system and to really be like believe in the vision you have for yourself, no matter how lofty and wild it may be, is a crazy feeling that I'm grateful for. You know what I mean? And yeah, those two relationships or those two loves, I would say, have been a blessing. just to for lack of a better word, that's they've been just a blessing to just to think about when I wake up or go to bed. I'm like, man, just thank you for another day, and thank you for having somebody here with me to just embark on this journey of life. You know what I mean? They've been huge. Yeah, been
Yeah,
huge.
very well said, bro. Very well said. What's the hardest lesson that you've learned about love or friendship?
I think the hardest thing to that I've learned is that real love doesn't have conditions. That's the way God loves us doesn't have conditions. He doesn't love some things we do, but He loves us, the same. And I think that thinking about like there's that saying like what would Jesus do, and there's being godlike and being of this, being of that, and it's like you know we're told to love your neighbors and your enemies just the same, right? I don't have to love people's sin. I don't have to love my own sin. You know what I mean? But loving myself, loving people, and being compassionate, right? And thinking of things in a godly manner. It's funny because once you start mentioning love, like I just can't help but bring up God because I feel like that's just the embodiment of
Same.
it in itself.
Love it,
But
bro. Yeah,
but
man.
you know what I mean. But a big thing is for me is like um, when I think what's tough about it is that you know I accept God's love for me, right? And I know I'm not perfect. So when I look at people in the world and still have like being able to like try to understand folks from their point of view, see the differences, and like let them kind of come and go. Like see things at face value and not take them to heart. Like especially nowadays in this, like for example, like the political climate, right? Whatever side people proclaim to be on, people get angry if they're not on the same one. And it's like, it's not my job to even be judging. You know what I mean? It's not my it's not my desire or my job to be judging and to be frustrated over things like that. But, you know, it's about an elevated, category, right? About us being children of God, and just being able to like be that warmth. You know what I mean? Like that's one thing I think has been huge in my growth as a man, because we look at, like Jesus, for example, like the lion, the lamb. Like you can be a strong man and be, stern and be, a provider, but then at the same time, knowing when to scale that back and be like maybe soft for your partner, for your kids, or understanding, and being calm. It's like the balance. And it's like, I don't have to be like, oh, nah, we don't see eye to eye. It's like, I don't even like, when you're a kid, you may get in tussles and all these little whatever. I'm like, bro, I don't even think that way now. Like, I don't, I don't even want to like go there mentally, like, because it's just
Yeah,
not what I'm here for. Like, I know I've been starting to understand my purpose here. I'm like, it has nothing to do with, being angry or being, physical and all that. We're gonna get frustrated, of course, but like, like my girl will tell you, like, it could be things that bother me, bro, and I'll just kind of just sit there, like, be still in the moment, because I'm like, I know it'd be just as easy to blow up, and now I'm more susceptible to doing something that I'm gonna have to, be apologetic for later, to now, check myself in a way of like, hey, like maybe like I let the enemy get to me or whatever, something along those lines. And it's like, not that I'm perfect and just always avoid it, but like my focus is that to where I stay above certain things, because I know that's not my job. That's not my purpose to be, you know, like rubbing, like being like having that friction, you know what I mean? It's just focusing on
combative
like
things
the
like that.
actually
Yeah,
loving, like and being like under, I mean, being on that side of the spectrum. So the hardest part was like learning to like, you know what, like it doesn't matter. Like it doesn't matter if that's a little bit frustrating, or it's not something that you're used to, or you weren't raised that way. My job isn't to judge. My job isn't to be angry over that thing, or to hate that person or what they're doing. I don't have to like their sin or anything like that, but I don't. My thing isn't, is to love people and to be, and that understanding that and embracing that without feeling like I'm weak or soft and all that this type of stuff. That's like been one of the things that, like I said, with God's love has been reassuring, because like I can be that way and still be myself. I can still be Osai and someone who may know me from high school, like, oh, he was a little bit this, he had a bit of like an attitude, yeah, but cool. But we grow, and who I am now, I can hang my head on the fact that like I was one way and then now I've grown to another way, and this is who I am. So
yeah, yeah, definitely.
yeah.
Man, life is definitely too precious to be angry or to be anything but happy and grateful. And I think that the fact that we can even love, feel that emotion of love on this planet, especially when we aren't, like you
Mm,
mentioned, we aren't perfect. So the fact that somebody can love us
right.
even though we aren't perfect is such a beautiful thing. And so I do want to ask, um, when was the last time you truly felt at peace, and what made that moment possible?
That's a good one, because really quick before I answer that, really quick. We there's always that conversation about people being happy, you know? And I used to chase that, like, man, I want to be happy one day. I just want to be happy. I'm gonna do this, and then I'm gonna be happy. I'm gonna get this girl and be happy. And then I started to reshape what that looked like, because with happiness, there's always going to be some form of opposite, right? Where there's happiness, I'm sure around the corner there's sadness, right? So peace was the thing I feel like, or the other day I got in the shower, I literally told myself like, peace is what we should be striving for. And then I started to try to ask myself like, okay, but what does that look like for you? And the last time I felt I was at peace, I was with my lady and we were at the beach watching the sunrise. And I sent a picture of the beach, like the sunrise, like the sun coming up the horizon, to my family in our group chat. And I think just like appreciating again, just like God's creation for us. And, you know, it's so early. We didn't have to, do our grocery shopping yet. We were just given the time to just sit there and just like take it in and just appreciate it. And I think it just felt good because, it was a weekend. I think it was last Saturday, maybe or before that. And it was just a moment where I didn't have to do anything for the next little while, and I could just sit there and take in um, everything, right? And it started from God's beautiful creation of this earth, right? I've seen it was where it was like the clouds. You could see like the sun poking through the bottom, so it almost
Yeah,
looked,
yeah, the sun
it
rays.
looked
Yeah,
good.
yeah.
Look, yeah, like it looked super peaceful. The water, the water is crazy out there, and like you see the waves, and then just being grateful for that, and then also just thinking about like where I am in life. Like I always you know anything like worth for me, like anything worth striving for it, sometimes it takes a bit of grit. And like I mentioned earlier, like those darker days, sometimes it just because of just the fluctuation of being a human and the emotions and stuff. And given that moment to just not deal with any of that and just be grateful and use that as like a version of rest in a way, just be able to bask in just like what's been here for us this whole time. It just felt peaceful and it felt like a reset. And now I kind of chase them a little bit. And I today I went to somewhere out here and was looking at cars and stuff like that. And that's something that I'm passionate about. But just like again, like just given the opportunity to do so, just like moments like that, I think I'm just grateful for because they just feel at home. I feel at ease. And yeah, the last time was on the sunrise, and I think I'm gonna go get another one of these days when I can, because it's just a moment to it's just a moment to wind down, a moment to be grateful. And I did it and shared it with people I love, and I think that was the biggest thing about it. And you know,
Yeah,
I'm
yeah.
still grateful for it because I want to do it again.
No, that's
Yeah,
that's beautiful, bro. Beautiful.
thank you,
Well, hey, man, hey, so I thank you so much for being on here. Like, it really was great having you on. Truly, like,
thank
I
you,
really
thank you.
appreciate this
Honestly,
conversation.
this was dope. Yeah, I've enjoyed it. Honestly, I've enjoyed it.
Good,
Yeah,
good. I'm glad. It was nice. Like I said in the beginning, like I wanted to just use this as an opportunity to get to know you a little bit better too, because we haven't had too many opportunities to kind of just really sit down and chat. And so,
yeah,
this was wonderful. I really did like. Yeah, man, you're a really cool guy. Like you really are. You've
thank
grown
you,
a
thank
lot,
you.
and yeah, you got a good head on your shoulders, man. I'm proud of you. Yeah, and I do kind of want to leave it up to you real quick. If you'd like to shout anything new or upcoming that you have going on, or just shout yourself out, let the people know.
It's funny. I'm not big on shutting myself out, but I will say I am now in South Orlando, Florida. Was in Sacramento, so anybody who needs a haircut, hit me up. I will say a shout out to you because I'm a watcher, bro. Like I like to observe, and you embarking on what you've been doing in software engineering, and now in this podcast, and just like the just being and putting yourself on display, up for scrutiny, whatever the case may be, right? I remember the app that you made and they kind of had to revamp, and bro, I don't even at the time I wasn't even really as my foot wasn't even as deep in tech as it is now. And I downloaded it just because I wanted to support. And I think I resonate with people who just do, right? And you just pursuing and doing things and acting on, what you enjoy and what you, have on your mind and heart. And I think that's super dope. So I think shout out to you because we need more
Thank
of
you, bro.
that. This podcast feels like a regular conversation. Like, you know what I mean? And maybe it helps
That's
because,
the goal.
we're familiar, but it feels good. And again, like I said, like men sometimes don't have a chance to talk, even though this wasn't therapy, but in a way, it was just a way to connect and be vulnerable and be honest. And we don't have that a lot, so I think this was dope, and I appreciate it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, of course, bro. Thank you so much, man. That means the world, more than you know. Um, and
Thank you.
yeah, once again appreciate you for being on, and thank you everyone out there for joining us on this episode of Life Unedited. If you know someone whose story you want to hear or have questions you'd love me to ask future guests, let me know in the comments. But yeah, until next time, I'll catch y'all later.